Welcome to Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. I'm Karen Seltz, your host. I am super excited that you are here with me tonight. I am fresh off of a week-long advanced retreat with Dr. Joe Dispenza, and it's my second one that I've gone to, and I am just electric with possibilities. I am lit up. Oh my gosh. So if you are new to me, there's really only three things that you need to know. The first one is that I have had a long and twisted and perfectly imperfect journey to get where I am. I have conquered, I would say for the most part, depression, addiction, low self-esteem, low self-worth, all of that stuff, playing small. And now I'm so happy that I'm off of antidepressants, I'm off of medications. And I just am a testament to what is possible when you take yourself on and you keep saying, what else is possible? What else is possible? And just keep staying on the path. So I believe that you can heal from absolutely anything. And I am walking proof of a lot of it. The second thing that you need to know is that I consider myself to be a divine mirror, that I have the ability to see people as they really are, as the divine sees them, and to reflect it back to them until they get it for themselves, the truth of who they are, not the little self that they identify with, not the I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm an accountant, whatever it is, but the big S, the capital S self, the divine inside of you. And the third thing that you need to know is that I am uncensored in my approach. And what that means is I'm willing to say things the way that they come in and without censoring that. So a lot of times when I was new at coaching, I would hear this voice and I'd be like, no, I can't say that. They're going to fire me. And so I'd water it down and make it palatable, in my opinion. And then people would get watered down results. So finally, I gathered up some courage. I'm like, okay, I'm going to say the thing. I'm just going to trust. I'm going to step into the unknown. And a lot of times it was like a gut punch, like watching it in slow motion. The thing would come out of my mouth and people would be like, I'm hit. But then there would be like a crack in that facade and they would feel seen. You know, the parts that they were trying to hide that they thought were unlovable were exposed, and they like, well, okay, I might as well just tell it. And then there was a place that they were at choice to decide to be something different, to do something different, and to have different results. So I am willing to go wherever I'm called to go, say whatever I'm called to say, and do whatever I'm called to do. So let's rock and roll. I'm so inspired about this topic because I started to play with manifesting miracles. And it started from the moment that I got to this retreat, to this magical place. I was selected. I put in an application to be a healee, which means Dr. Joe Dispenza does healing, coherence healing meditations. And everybody in the place is a healer. He teaches people how to heal others, how to heal themselves by opening up their hearts and getting their hearts into coherence. And then once your heart is in coherence, your brain goes into coherence. If you don't know what that means, I'll just explain it really briefly. If you look at a heart monitor, it's all over the place. Like it's I mean, it's like not in rhythm. It's beating out of sync. And when we are able to get out of our survival emotions and open up and just be pure love, it causes something interesting to happen in our brains. So all the different parts of our brains that were operating independently, and if you look at a brain scan, they might be like, the waves might be crashing into each other. They start to go like this. They're in sync with each other, they're communicating with all the different parts. They're communicating with one another. And it's called brain coherence. So once that happens, like you can open up and you have so much available energy to you, which is what I'm going to teach you how to get into. So the first thing I did was I got selected. Before I went, I filled out this thing like to be healed. And I'm like, well, whatever. I'll just fill it out. Why not? I'm going to leave it up to the universe, up to fate, and see what happens. And I was selected. And at first I was like super grateful. I'm like, wow, this is so cool, because I didn't find out until I got there. And I met this woman who was in a wheelchair. And I was just inspired to tell her what I saw at the last retreat, which was a man in a wheelchair walk. So I told her, I'm like, last time I was here, I saw a man in a wheelchair walk. And you know what? You get to walk. And she was really super grateful and inspired. Her partner was grateful and inspired. And I believe it planted the seed of what was possible for her. Because at our very first walking meditation, and I don't remember what day it was, day 3 or day 4 of the retreat, I saw her walk. And I nearly fell down, because there's nothing so awe-inspiring than to see people like tapping into their divinity and creating miracles and defying matter, right? Like, if you look at an atom under a microscope, it is 99.99999% space, energy, potential, and only 0.0001% matter or particle. And as humans, we tend to identify with the matter, the solid, the particle. And what Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches is how to become nothing. And you really just get into that empty space, which is 99.999% of everything. And from that place, you influence matter by raising your energy, raising your frequency, which you do with certain thoughts, and then feeling the emotions ahead of the events. So what would you feel if you were in a wheelchair and you walked? How would you feel? And when you feel that, the event comes to you, you become the magnet for it. You create this electromagnetic field around you that draws the event to you. So, in walking meditations, which I absolutely love, you are in trance. You're not looking at other people. You're not making eye contact. You're not being a people pleaser. You're just in trance. You are in a meditative state. But I saw her and I'm like, oh, I totally broke trance when I saw this woman walking. And I nearly fell down. I nearly dropped to my knees because I was so humbled, so in awe, and so grateful for the opportunity to witness that and to see that miracle. And she's someone that I talked to like all week long. It wasn't like we had one interaction. I talked to her at every break. I'm like, oh, how you doing, Anna? It was just beautiful. So that was just one thing. Now that's a really big thing. So what I want to talk about is like the little playful things, because I had a hard time. Like for me, it's like, yeah, that's great for others, right? And when you hear these big things, you're like, oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's great for them. But after the retreat ended, I stayed a couple extra days, and there was a man who had rented a car, and it was an electric car. And it had sat there in the parking garage all week, and it was dead. And I'd just done this walking meditation called the electric body. I'm like, we can start your car, no problem. Like, we're electric. We are electric. It's only frequency. So they wanted him to call a taxi to give him a jump. But one of the guys that was like the baggage guy, he went and got his car and brought it over. But on the way, I'm like, let me at your car. So this other woman and I, we did this thing, which is, what I do for healing. And we just like rubbed our hands together, started some electricity. And we put our hands like right above the battery and sent like electricity and energy to it for only about 5 seconds. I'm not kidding, 5 seconds. And then the guy came with the cables. I'm like, well, okay, we better do the conventional thing. Nobody wants to wait for this. I don't know. I thought it would take some time. I was wrong. So I put the cables on his car. And when the valet guy grabbed the cables, he touched them together and they went, zzz. He's like, this car has power. You don't need to jump. I'm like, ah. So I went and I pushed the button and it started. And I'm like, yes. And it was just like so much fun. I'm like, well, why not create that all over the place? So the next day, I kid you not, I'm like, okay, I'm open, like whatever comes. I was with this guy and we had breakfast and he was about to check out. So I walked with him to his room and his electronic key doesn't open the door. He tries it again, doesn't open the door, tries it again. I'm like, come on, bring it. So I'm like, and I told him about the car. So I do this over the key for a couple seconds. So I'm like, okay, try it. And he puts it in and he's like, oh my gosh. Because of course it opened the door. And it's like, for me, I decided that I'm going to look for those opportunities every single day. And I have more stories. I mean, just like story after story of what is possible. Like there was an issue with the plane. I was getting on the plane yesterday to come home, and there was a maintenance issue, and they said it'll be 30 minutes. I'm like, nope. 5 minutes later, we're boarding. I'm like, this is crazy. I did it with an Uber ride. I'm like, okay, I just saw this number, like $23 Uber. And I'm like, I'm getting a $23 Uber home, because it was $47 on the way home there. So I'm like, okay, all right. So when I punched in Uber, when I got there, it was like $47. I'm like, nope. Here's my phrase. Surely in the realm of all possibilities, there is a potential for a $23 ride home. Surely. So whatever it is, like, so surely in the realm of all possibilities or infinite possibilities, there's a potential for whatever it is that I want to experience. So then I went to Lyft, $25. I'm like, awesome, I'll take it. Much better than 47. So it was like, just like, I've been my playful side is like completely ignited. And it's giving me practice so I can create the big things, because I've had this block for many, many years around receiving. So I'm going to go back to the coherence healing thing. The first thing that happened was I sat next to this woman before the coherence healing days who had like stage 3 cancer, and she applied to be a Healy and she didn't get selected. So I went into my old stories like, oh gosh, I shouldn't have applied, right? Like she needs it so much more than I do. I just have these little things, and I've learned how to heal my body. I've done it a lot of times already. So I went into that like lack of self-worth, lack of deservingness story. And I'm like, no, I don't get to question the divine. I do not get to. I don't know what her journey is. I have no idea. I know that she can heal herself. She doesn't need anybody else to intervene. And my entire year has led to me learning how to receive. That's it. Like every single thing has led up to that. I've been very generous, very giving for a long time. And it's time for me to learn to receive. So when I laid down in that sacred room, it was so beautiful. The first thing I did was just sob. I just started sobbing, and I said, this lack of self-worth, this lack of deservingness, this lack of the willingness to receive gets to go. It's no longer a part of me. It doesn't belong in my future. And I just started crying, and I just let it go. And immediately it was like the energy shifted, my vibration shifted, and I felt like this team. I don't know what it was. Angels. I mean, I didn't see anything. Angels, support beings, whatever it was. I just felt them come in and surround me. And I just felt so held, like safe and held and valued. And I just felt like I matter. And the rest is illusion. Like nothing else matters. And then once I like leaned into that and I just surrendered to that, I felt the energy of my mom come in. And she passed away 5 years ago. And I just felt like she was there with me. She was holding me. She was there. And like saying, you get to let that go. It's not who you are. You are worthy to receive. And so I decided, right, to trust the divine and to stop questioning, stop thinking I knew better, and to receive. And I was the recipient of 3 separate coherence healings from 3 separate groups of people. And each time I got something different and so beautiful. And in the last one, like a lot of energy was flowing through my body. My body was doing all kinds of like weird stuff. And then all of a sudden I heard this voice and it said, "It is done." And I'm like, I just went like completely still and just like just surrendered and in this place of complete faith and knowing that it was done. My body's healed. And the things that I had going on, don't belong in my future. They were in the old body, and I like felt reborn. So the reason I'm sharing all this is because I know from my experience that the body is designed to heal. I know that the brain is designed to heal. So all the stories that we hold, we can continue to identify with them, or we can tell the subconscious mind, hey, this is who I no longer want to be. And make a list. Like, I no longer want to second guess myself. I no longer want to play small. I no longer want to hide. I no longer want to wear a mask. I no longer want to be afraid to use my voice. I no longer want to be afraid to speak my truth, to take my mask off, to be vulnerable, to be authentic. I mean, these are all things that I let go of like along my journey. And then here's what I do want. This is who I do choose to be. I choose to be courageous. I choose to be loving no matter what. I choose to be authentic. I choose to use my voice. I choose to speak up when no one else will. And so just like have those things conscious, like, because whatever you prime your subconscious mind with, it will look for and say, okay, let me know if I'm doing this thing that I don't want anymore. And it will let you know. It's designed to filter things, but if you leave it to chance, it's going to go back to the old programming. So one of the beautiful things that really became embodied for me and became apparent was, last time I went, I had this incredible heart opening, and where I felt completely in love with myself. Like, I had never experienced that before. I mean, up here, I got it. Like, yeah, I have to love myself before I can love others. But I really got it. I had a mystical experience in the last retreat where I saw, like, during one of the walking meditations with my eyes wide open, I had what most people describe as a near-death experience, where I saw my entire life flash before my eyes like that. And all the choices that I made all through my life that I'd been judging, I'm like, oh, I get it. Like, it all made sense in an instant. And then I felt my heart go, it like cracked open and it engorged with blood. And I felt so loving. And I was like loving that woman, that girl that made all those choices, and saying, yes, it brought you to this point. And in that moment, I had no regret for anything. It all made sense. I wouldn't change a thing, not a single thing. And if you know me, I've done some things that most people would say, gosh, why wouldn't you change that? It's terrible that you did that. But it brought me to this place. And if nothing else, because I can love the woman who did those things, I can love anyone. I really can. There is nothing that anybody could tell me that I would say, oh, that's unlovable. And when I'm in that place with my heart open, nothing's unlovable. Nothing. All events are neutral. So what I realized after a couple of days is like, oh my gosh, my heart like slowly closed. Not all the way, but it closed a lot, because once it's cracked open, I'm like, oh, I have a lot of contrast. I'm feeling so much love. I don't even know what to do with it. And the connection between certain people, it's like there's no separation between me and the person I'm hugging, or me and the person I'm sending energy to, or me and the person who's sending energy to me. And you get to do the work to get to that place. And I tell you, it is worth it. It is 100% worth it to open your heart and to feel no boundaries, no barriers between you and anybody, between you and a thing that you want, whether it be peace, love, harmony, the love of your life, abundance. I mean, it could be a thing. It could be it's usually emotions that we want. We want experiences. We want to experience freedom or joy or adventure or happiness, whatever it is. So I'm going to go back a little bit. So one of the things that I learned is when we're creating these little miracles is like the car, for example. I had no doubt in my mind that car was going to start. I just had this knowing, like, and this playful curiosity, like, well, what do we have to lose? Like, So what if it didn't matter if it didn't work? But I was like, let's play in the quantum. And so I am going to form this group of people that were there that's called Playing in the Quantum. Like, okay, what are we looking for today? What are we going to create? Because the more we practice it, the more we're priming our subconscious minds to look for these things, the more our lives are going to be filled with miracles. So whether it's starting a car that's dead, or, you know, recharging a room key, or seeing somebody who's in a wheelchair walk, like, we get to witness this, we get to cause it, we get to create it. And now I'm like, my friend, I mean, I said this before, but I keep saying this phrase over and over. When people that were at that retreat would say something that was limiting, I would say, well, surely there's a possibility in the realm of infinite possibilities for this to be an outcome. Surely. I mean, we live in this realm of infinite possibilities, and we're tapping into 0.0000001% of it. Like, well, what else is possible, right? Like, why not play? So my invitation is like, play with it. Let's have some fun. Let's create some buzz, because I tell you, like, there is energy. We are electromagnetic beings, and we tap into so little of it. I mean, even if you do this, rub your hands together and then hold them apart and feel the energy between them, feel it. And then pull them apart and then compress it into a ball. You could feel that energy. That's energy. And if you keep playing with that field, you can make it bigger and bigger. And then if you hold your hands out, you can extend that love, that energy out. If you hold it in, you can extend it in to yourself, to any part of you that needs healing. Maybe it's your mind, maybe it's your heart, maybe it's some physical part of you. Why not play with it? Because what else are you going to do? The same crap you did yesterday? Like, let's play, let's have some fun, because, man, I tell you, I've been like so delighted and surprised, like, at all these little things. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I'll give you one more. So I was on the airplane, and there was a little tiny boy behind me, like in a car seat, and he was like crying and screaming, and it doesn't affect me. I'm like, whatever. And he was kicking my seat, and it doesn't bother me at all. But his mom was like, shh, don't cry. And he's like 1.5, I don't know, 2. Like, you can't tell a 1.5-year-old don't cry. Yeah, good luck, lady. But I felt so compassionate toward her, because I know what it's like. You don't want to disturb other people. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do the thing. I'm like, okay, this whole plane is surrounded in love. And I just like directed love to her and to the little boy. And of course he calms down. I'm like, it's just so much fun to play with. So my invitation is play, see what you can create. Go start a stalled car. I'm like, what else could we do? Like, how about a flat tire? Like, can I like inflate it and patch it with my hands? Like, why not? It's all like particles rearranging themselves. Why not? Like, what else? So I came home to a green pool. So that's my next thing. I'm going to do my pool. And so a yard full of weeds. So let's see what we can do with those. But why not? Let's, it's fun. Just play. And the other thing is, like, seriousness is of the ego. So if we're curious and we're light and we're playful, what's possible? When we start getting serious about life and we think, oh, things have to be a certain way, or we start judging other people or taking things personally, I invite you to like step back. I'm like, how can I make this into play, into a game? Because everybody's playing a role for me. Everyone's playing a role for you. You're playing a role for everybody that you encounter. And why not have some fun? Because we get to learn the same lessons either way. Like, we can kick and scream and drag our feet and take 50 years to learn a lesson. Or we can say, what would you have me learn here? And how can I learn it with fun? So yeah, I'm just super excited. So in order to actually do this, the big thing is to open your heart. And there's a meditation that's short. Dr. Joe Dispenza does not have a lot of short meditations. They're all like an hour. But there's one on YouTube called Go to Love. It's G-O, the number 2, love. I believe it's all one word, Go to Love. And it's 15 minutes. And he talks about opening up your heart and then picturing somebody that you love and feeling the love that you have for that person. So I always pick like somebody who's easy to love, somebody that it's not like a struggle to love them. It's not a choice. It's just easy. And then, opening your heart. And then he's like, now put their heart in your heart. So they're like connected. So you're like filling their heart with your love from the inside. And it's so beautiful and expansive. And so I recommend starting with that one. And then from that place, you think about, what would I like to create today? Or bring me something to perform a miracle. Or just bring me something, surprise me. Because if it's not a surprise, it's the known, which means you're going to relive the same days you've been living, like Groundhog's Day. Or surprise and delight me, bring me something to perform a miracle. And then just play, like say, I wonder what happens if I raise my energy. If I have the thought that I could start a car, how would I feel when I actually started it? I mean, we were like jumping up and down. We were like, woo, we've got the power. We started singing like all the things. And then when the room key, I'm like, this guy was like, what? And I was like, yeah. I tell you, I don't know if I've ever had so much fun, even on a roller coaster. And that's a known for me. So play, have fun, raise your energy by thinking a thought. Thoughts have frequency, they carry information. And then how will you feel when it actually happens? And then be it now, step into it. And I love movement, like the walking meditations are divine because you're moving as that. You're moving as a divine being. You're moving as somebody who creates miracles. So walk, have some inspiring music and create, send a ripple of love out. Because everything is either an extension of love or a call for love. So if people are, misbehaving, whatever, acting not in accordance with their highest selves, they just need love. And why not give it? And we get to love ourselves first. So that's what I have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you next week on Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose.